Everyone, so today we're going to work through some more order of operation examples. The ones today will contain exponents. So again, we're going to be working on lesson 4.2, order of operations. Okay, so first let's review what the order of operations are because we briefly went over this last week. So if you like acronyms, it's PEMDAS. Please excuse my dear Aunt Sally. And so the P stands for parentheses. The E stands for exponents. The M stands for multiplication. The D, division. And these two are in the same step. And you solve them from left to right. Or basically whatever appears first is how you solve it. So if it goes division, multiplication, division, you would do division, multiplication, division. And then same thing with addition and subtraction. These are also in the same step, left to right. Okay. So we're just going to work through some examples. I went through the Khan Academy on this, and every problem that I got, I'm going to do it with you so that you can just see what they look like and how to solve them. Okay, so first one was 40 times 8 minus 10 squared. So what we do is we're first going to look at our order of operations, and we're just going to kind of treat this like it's a checklist. So there are no parentheses. So now I move on to my next one, which is exponents, which there are. So I'm going to solve for my exponents. So 10 squared is 10 times 10, which is 100. So then I'm going to bring everything else down. So I have 40 times 8 minus 100. So I have no more exponents. Now I'm going to move on to this step. And again, I solve from left to right. So it looks like there's just multiplication. So now I'm going to do the multiplication. 40 times 8, so 4 times 8 is 32. So we add a 0 at the end and we get 320. And then I bring everything else down that I didn't use. And then it's easy now because I only have one more operation left, but if I wanted to, I'd go back through and I go, okay, now I'm in this step and I have subtraction. So I subtract and I get 220 as my final answer. Okay, next one. 9 minus 1 plus 9 plus 3 to the 4th power. So I have no parentheses, so I move on to exponents, and I do have an exponent, so I'm going to solve for this. So this becomes 3 times 3 times 3 times 3. So 3 times 3 is 9, times 3 is 27, times 3 is 81. And now I'm going to bring everything else down. Okay, so then I look through my next step. I have no multiplication and division. I just have addition, subtraction, and I do that from left to right. So first, and you might be thinking like, oh, well, couldn't I just do all my addition, 1 plus 9 plus 81? But then I'm saying 9 minus all of that. What it's really just saying is 9 minus 1, then plus 9, then plus 81, not 9 minus this whole thing. So I do 9 minus 1, which is 8, bring everything down. Okay, now I just have addition left. 8 plus 9 is 17 plus 81. 17 plus 81 is 98. Okay, next one. 6 times 2 plus 6 to the 4th power. So here, I don't have any parentheses, but I have exponents. 6 times 6 times 6 times 6. When I multiply that out, I get 1,296. For these ones, if you want to use a calculator for like the exponent part, that's fine. But I don't want you using a calculator for the rest of this because what you might end up doing is, especially if you have like a fancy calculator, typing this in the way it's written, and your calculator doesn't solve using order of operations. It's not that high tech. So it just solves it from left to right. So it would do 6 times 2 plus, which I guess in some cases you might get the right answer, but in some cases you won't. And so you want to make sure that if you're using your calculator, you're only using it for components of your order of operation problem, not for the whole thing. So then I'm going to bring everything else down. Remember that the dot always means multiplication. We use this because when we get in algebra, we use x as our unknown. So now I multiply, and I get 12 plus 1,296. And I was only one step, so I can add, and I get 1,308. Okay, let's do another one. So here we have 4 squared over 2 squared. Okay, so these ones are kind of funky. So whenever you see something that's a fraction in your problem, it's kind of saying this is all together, and so you'll solve what's in the numerator, then what's in the denominator, and then you'll divide them. And if there's other things in the problem, so if it was like plus 8 times blah, 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 you almost treat it as if there's parentheses around it. So as if this whole thing is like one number, you just have to solve for this one number before you can do other operations on it. So we're going to first solve our numerator. So 4 squared is 4 times 4, which is 16. 2 squared is 2 times 2, which is 4. And now this fraction line here means that I can just divide. So 16 divided by 4 is 4. Okay. Next one. 8 cubed minus 9 times 2 divided by 3. Okay, so here's an example where if you put this into the calculator, it would solve it incorrectly. It would do 8 cubed minus 9, then that whole thing times 2, then that whole thing divided by 3, which is not how we're solving it. And so, again, if you want to use a calculator, only use it for things like the exponents or for, you know, like one of the operation steps, but don't put the whole thing into your calculator. Okay, so 8 cubed is 8 times 8 times 8. So 8 times 8 is 64. 64 times 8 is 512. And now I'm going to bring everything else down. Okay, so now I'm not going to do 5 minus 9 because that's not the correct order of operations. So I've done my exponents. Now I move on to the multiplication and division step. And I do it in the order it appears. So that becomes 18. And then I'm going to bring everything else that I didn't use down. And now I'm going to continue with my multiplication and division step. And I get 502 as my final answer. Okay, let's do a couple more. Parentheses, 8 minus 4, close parentheses, and then I'm going to write this a different way than what Khan Academy did, just because I want you to know what this means. So whenever you have a number like this on the outside of an X, or on the outside of a set of parentheses, what that means is it's 4 times whatever you get inside of the parentheses. If there was like a squared here, you would do your parentheses, exponents, multiplication. So the only reason that it doesn't have the sign is just because it's redundant and you don't need it. So if you want to just think about it, 4 times whatever I get in the parentheses. So I start with my parentheses. And again, what this means, whenever there's a number just right next to it with no operation, it means multiply. So I get 16 as my final answer. Okay, let's quickly work through. Let's do one more. 6 divided by 3 plus 9 squared minus 4. So there's no parentheses, so I start with my exponents. 9 squared is 81. I'm going to bring everything else down that I didn't use. So now I'm in my multiplication and division step. And now I can just solve this from left to right. Okay, so that is order of operations. I hope that working through these was helpful.